It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielsen, Matt Cassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
All right, well, happy Thursday, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Two Guys and a Goalie, part of the Nielsen Media Cool Bet Network, brought to you by our great partners at Cool Bet. And boy, we've got lots to discuss here. Nielsen, Gage, and Cass back with you once again. Cass, traveling back. Looks like you're back in the office. How is it returning to life after vacation?
It's good, man. It's good. I mean, busy, right? Your busy day. And I tried to generally do a little bit of work every day, an hour or two sort of thing when one of the kids was napping or other people were out doing stuff that I didn't want to go do, like shop and that sort of stuff. So I chipped away at stuff, which was good. And you kind of always have to be available and around. But yeah, it's still busy first day back. You're trying to take care of everything and catch up on everything. And it's good. And get some sleep. So I mean, just upfront with you guys, I did the pregame show and then I didn't watch the game because I had been up at the equivalent of 2 a.m. then, yesterday for that flight back home. So I was just like, nope, I'm not making it out of this late one here. So you guys are going to have to take over for the game.
I wish you were committed to the local hockey team, Cass. That's pretty sad.
I watched the highlights, guys. I watched the highlights.
That's all you needed to watch, really, from last night's game, buddy. Yeah. No, yeah. The Oilers are a low-event hockey team now. Yeah, Gager, that's basically what's happened now, right? Like the Oilers all of a sudden are a team that'll score 2 or 3 goals a game and lock it down otherwise. It's a fascinating transition.
I love listening to the post-game shows and the callers because for months now, people have been clamoring for a defensive structured game, disciplined, and now that they haven't, this game sucks. Like this isn't exciting. I'm bored. I'm going to sleep. Like the Oilers are giving everyone what they wanted: a low scoring lockdown, and with the occasional flair here and there. They're the perfect team that everyone's wanted, and now everyone wants the old team back.
Well, it is. You're right. People are like, man, you know what I really miss? 7-5 games because 3-1 just isn't as sexy. But Cass, is this a permanent transition or what?
I hope. Well, I mean, I hope it's a playoff transition. I mean, it's certainly. Yeah. Here's the thing. There's an old, not that old, I guess, but there's a science experiment that was like testing different areas of people's brains with electrodes, which you can't do anymore, but they used to do it. And it was like letting people control what part of their brains were stimulated with the electrodes, like gave the patients the control. The number one area that they did this was the area of mild irritation. So people would keep hitting that one over and over and over because it releases dopamine. So it's like, yeah, it's not surprising people kind of clamor for it because there's something about being perpetually a little bit peeved off that just kind of it ups your the dopamine's firing, the adrenaline's firing a little bit, and it just people are motivated to action with that. And so that's maybe where people now are having to find something new to be motivated to action about and to be mildly frustrated about, which is there's not enough goals, man. There's just not enough goals. So it's kind of funny that that's happening. But hey, listen, that locking it down couldn't have come at a better time, really, heading into the playoffs. Like, and just watching those games. And as I said, I didn't watch the Anaheim game, but I watched the games against LA in particular. And it was just like, they look good. Right, they look really good, and the ability to all of a sudden rein in some of the risk in their game has been fantastic. And you look at guys like Leon Draisaitl, and he started to do it a little while ago. He had that chunk post All-Star break where he struggled for a little bit, and then all of a sudden the switch flipped. And that switch was he cut risk out of his game. He started taking what was there and not forcing plays. And for whatever reason. Actually, you know what? I'll say what with reason. Coaching staff and your leadership group have communicated to the rest of the team and have in their own games from the leadership group standpoint, have taken that step to say, listen, guys, we need to lock this down. We need to play responsible. And to me, it's coming at a great time because that's how you're going to need to play in the playoffs. Now, maybe you have a game that gets up there and scoring and goals up, but being able to see these guys win games that are tighter, that are closer, where they're cutting down on those big mistakes, it's fantastic. So, I mean, I think it couldn't come at a better time. Like, this is great, in my opinion, and it bodes well for that last discussion that we had about where the Oilers are fitting in I had him at a 4. Gager, you had him at a 5 as far as a scale of 1 to 5 in terms of being a contender. But if they keep playing like this, I mean, for me, the last couple of games, even now, has started to tick up a little bit where I'm like, okay, like they're showing that they can play like this. And even for Jack Campbell, where now he's strung a couple of games together, Skinner's strung a bunch of really good games together where it's like, okay, it's all coming together, and it's coming together at the absolute right time, which is like you want to peak going into playoffs, and they're looking like they're doing that as of right now, which is great.
Gage, your follow up on Campbell there. I mean, had to shut out, and then last night, beaten just once. Are you seeing something of significance in his game that makes him playoff playable, I guess?
Not so much seeing some, but though I think what we've seen over the whole course of the season with Jack Campbell, and I mean, I'm putting myself in his shoes as he comes to an Oilers team that is a contender. We can say that at the beginning of the year they were. I think there was a little bit of Jack Campbell coming in and trying to win the Stanley Cup with his first save, so to speak. Just trying his game. It was all over. He wanted to be the guy. There was a lot of stuff going on. There was excitement, and it just didn't work for him. And it's taken almost basically the whole season to get back to a place where when you hear Jack Campbell speak now from the beginning of the year till now, it's a subtler tone. And to me, what he says is he's way more focused in the moment, if that makes sense. He's just concentrating basically on that next save. And this is the kind of attitude I think that would have served him well at the beginning of the year, because it is a marathon, not a sprint. But I like what he's done. I think we're going to see Jack Campbell at some point in the playoffs. I think there's going to be a time where he's going to be in net. And I think he's set himself up to, if that happens, if he gets the ball, he might start running with it. He's a confident guy. Looking at him in the interviews last night, the way he's speaking, even with certain reporters' questions, he's a focused and driven individual from what I see so far. So I like where he's at.
It's such a fascinating time right now because, like, when they lose, people are on their phone on Twitter losing their shit. When they were win 7-5, people are like, it's so happy, but blah, 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 this needs to be better. And now it's just like, a tidy win. Click, turn off the TV and go to bed. It's really bizarre right now for sure. Now, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, an assist on the empty netter last night, getting to 100 points for the first time in his career. And I think we've always loved Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. But I'll just admit it. And I think some people will say, no, I didn't think he'd ever score 100 points in a season. From what we saw through the first 5, 6, 7 years of his career, I thought, you know what? Really good season for the Nuge. 75, 80 points. If he can get there, that would be great. Now he's at 100. He's going to go over 100. Cass, what did you think his offensive ceiling was prior to what's just happened?
You're muted, Cass.
In a really good year, I would have pegged him at like 85 at the top end, like in a really good year. So I thought that was going to be kind of the ceiling, but so much of it is because of the power play and how good the power play is. And he's such an integral part of that it makes a big difference. But if you would have asked me to put money on him being a 100-point player, like for the remainder of his career, I would have definitely taken the under, like on the that's not going to happen side of it. So pretty amazing what he's been able to do. Will he be able to repeat it is the big question. And I guess that depends on the power play and everyone staying together and Leon and Connor just as much as it ends up being the Nuge. But it's like he's the perfect complementary player out there because, I still don't think driving his own line, running his own power play, Nuge gets anywhere close to 100 points. But as far as where he's been able to fit in and how he's been able to fit in, man, pretty crazy, pretty unbelievable he's able to do that. I'm pretty excited for him.
It seems like everybody was excited for him last night. Hey, Gager, everybody, just when he got back to the bench, is just like, this guy's been nuts. Through all the shit. Now he's part of a true contender, and he's having a career year. part of his trio that's doing things that haven't been done in 30 years. Like, if anybody in the league deserved this season, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins deserved this season.
What about Taylor Hall? What about Taylor Hall, man? What about Taylor? No.
Won the Hart Trophy with less than 100 points. Interesting.
Yeah, you know, I love playing still at times. Like, it was fun. I'll tell you about Struddy and I did a commercial the other day that was hilarious on the ice. That was a lot of fun. But you know, when all is said and done, there's certain moments that remind you of what you went through as a hockey player. That when you hear guys say, it's the guys that I miss the most, the camaraderie that you just, I don't think is attainable in any other setting that you have that within a team like that. And you see Zach Hyman say, "Nope, you're going first," because usually the guy that scores the goals goes first for the high fives. You see guys almost ripping Ryan Nugent-Hopkins' shoulder out of its socket with the high fives. You get on the bench and you've got coaches, you've got the training staff laughing and hugging. Like you said, Dusty, everyone loves this guy. He's been through it all. He's the Andy Dufresne of the Edmonton Oilers. He's gone through the mile of shit and come out great on the other side. Unbelievable moment for the kid. I am so happy for him. Hearing some stories about Ryan Nugent-Hopkins with just, he's never changed. He's always been the same to people. Just a very generous, nice person. It couldn't happen to a better guy. And it was tough in those media scrums. Some reporters saying, "I thought you were going to do this all the time, but you finally did." It was finally
got a 100-point season.
Yeah, it was just like, come on, man. This guy's been through it. So well done, Andy Dufresne.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable to see where he's got to this year, and real feel-good story. We're going to take a look back here at the 2011 draft, which is where he went first overall, in just a second. But Gage, can you spoil this commercial for us with you and Struddy, or what's happening here? What is this?
It was just a thing for kids sport. So it was just Struddy and I in the dressing room and just shooting the shit, and then we went on the ice and actually I was impressed because we were saying these one-liners, and Struddy had to skate and stop. He was worried because he said he had new blades on his skates. So, but he was good. But then I had to make some glove saves, and I was like, "Oh, Struddy's gonna throw one low blocker for sure." But he fired it, and I was like, and he put it like right under the bar. It was grabbable, but I was like, "Holy smokes, Struddy, you still got it?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, I still got it." Like, he was firing some heat. So look for that new Kid Sport commercial with Strudwick and I. It should be pretty good.
That'll be a good one. All right, let's get into this, guys. So 2011 draft, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins goes first overall, followed by Gabriel Landeskog, Jonathan Huberdeau. Actually, the top 10 from this draft worked out pretty good in the fact that Strome's played 699 games. He's about to hit 700. The entire draft class, the entire top 10 have all played 700 games in the National Hockey League, which is pretty good for a top 10 from a draft. Nuge went first, Landeskog, Huberdeau, Larson, Strome, Zibanejad, Scheifele, Couturier, Dougie Hamilton having another really good season, and then Jonas Brodin rounded out the top 10. The other guy, if we were to redraft this, one of the other guys that would certainly slide up there would be Kucherov, who was taken a little bit later on and had an absolutely phenomenal season. What's that, Cass?
Wasn't Gaudreau taken as well?
Johnny Gaudreau was later as well. Yeah, there's two guys, Gaudreau and Kucherov. And I didn't look at goalies, but Gaudreau and Kucherov were the two that sort of jumped off the page for me. Josh Manson went a little bit later. Anton Forsberg. Oh, Eero Pakarainen was in that draft. A little cup of coffee with the oil. So if you were to redo this draft today, I mean, there's Landeskog, there's Nuge, Zibanejad, Kucherov, Johnny Gaudreau. How does that sort itself out? Where do you think Nuge would go in a redraft of these guys? I think Kucherov would probably be number one, but Cass, I know you've always loved Zibanejad, and then you've got Nuge and Landeskog. I mean, how does this sort itself out?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, would I be offside to say that Nuge is probably still 3 or 4 in that? Like,
oh yeah, no, I think he's at least 3 or 4. Yeah,
I think he's 3. I think he's 3 or 4 because he might Kucherov number 1. Gaudreau possibly goes above. I'm just scrolling through everybody and looking at everybody. Like there was actually, when we look at it up and down, like that's a really good draft year.
A pretty good draft. Yeah.
Because Scheifele's in there too. You'd probably have him up there as well. I mean, Nuge goes top 5. I don't know. To me, because hindsight's so much easier to take a look at this and look at players. It probably all depends on who's drafting in what order at the time for what teams need. Because it would become more at that point, like if you knew where these guys' career paths are going to pan out, it kind of depends on where your team is and what your team needs. So yeah, but I still would have Nuge definitely in the top 5, probably 4 or 5 in that draft. But oh man, it's tough to say because it all depends on what your team needed.
I think, Cass, you could look at the top 9 names that you mentioned there, Dusty, and like you said, Cass, depending on the situation if you're the GM and what you need as a team, you could interchange all those names to be in the top 3. I think, depending on
like Dougie Hamilton, if you're looking for a big,
and that's knowing what type of player that they've turned out to this at that 700 game mark. Like that's an amazing draft that. And I remember that Landeskog Nuge comparison, and at first, you see what Landeskog was doing and the type of player, just rugged, and Nuge was more finesse. And I was like, oh, maybe that's what the Oilers needed more. But I think you can really say that the Oilers made a really good decision in Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. He's been as advertised throughout this whole time in his career.
I remember prior to that draft, we had Gabriel Landeskog on our morning show back then. I think it was even like Kyle Chase and I still. And we talked to Landeskog for like 15 minutes. And when we wrapped up, I was like, there's no way that kid's 17 years old. Like, there's no way. That's like a 28-year-old business professional. Like, he was the best. He was the best hockey interview I'd ever had. And he was 17 years old. Like, it was absolutely insane. So, Johnny Gaudreau or Ryan Nugent-Hopkins starting a team today, who would you take?
Today? Like if in their draft year? So if we're starting a team today with them in their draft year, or like as they are now?
What do you mean? Like
if we were, say, an expansion franchise and we were drafting a player, or we're a team now, like currently this year.
Expansion franchise, drafting a player, starting a franchise around a guy.
Okay. Yeah.
You got to go with the center, don't you?
You probably got to go with the center. Guys. Yeah, I probably would go
I'd have time to start with a wing, but it'd have to be a pretty special winger. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I mean, if you're doing that draft all over, you do Kucherov, right? But
I'm just thinking like from Gaudreau and Nuge.
Yeah, from Gaudreau and him. Like, I probably would look center. Yeah, look center. Yeah.
Gager, which way would you go on that one?
And I would probably go center, but if I'm a expansion team in the U.S. in a small market, I might draft the American-born.
Take the American-born player. Like, it's that close enough that you would look at different sort of scenarios.
A little bit more marketable. If it's a Canadian city, no-brainer. The Nuge is on my team. But if I'm looking to sell some jerseys and stuff with a well-known name in the U.S., I'm going Johnny Hockey.
Just to follow up on this one more time, Cass, would you say Kucherov and Zibanejad are the only 2 guys that you would 100% take ahead of Nuge in this discussion, or would Landeskog be on that list too?
Huberdeau would be on that list too.
Really?
He's right there. Huberdeau's right there.
Yeah.
Like
I'd have that discussion. I'd have that discussion either way.
I would really take a look at Huberdeau as well. Again, as a centerman where he'd be there, and you.
They've been moving him around on the wing though, too, right? So
Well, okay, but we can talk about that as being a dumb move in my
Well, he was a
opinion.
left winger last year, though, too. I mean, he's listed as a center, but he played left wing last year.
Well, so is Nuge.
Yeah.
Nuge also
Yeah,
though,
that's
has
true.
been
Nuge
playing
moves
a
around
lot
a
of
bit
like,
too, yeah.
Nuge has been playing a lot of wing recently too, the last couple of years. So
Yeah.
When he was in Florida, that was a line with two centers. That wasn't
With Barkov?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
That's a pretty good draft. When you look back on it,
it's a
pretty
really
good
good draft.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah, that's a
draft.
pretty good draft. And yeah, when you look at those top end guys, Nuge 628 points. Guy Landeskog 751. So Nuge has outproduced him. Played 60 more games though, so it's close. Their extra point per game would be right around the same. Huberdeau 667 and 747. Strome's closing in on 400 points. Zibanejad's just over 600. Scheifele is just over 640. Yeah, that's JT Miller was in that draft. 530 points. He went 15th that year. And the Oilers obviously took Oscar Klefbom later in that draft. That was a nice way to sort of have a couple guys that you could stabilize the next decade around if Klefbom would have stayed healthy.
Yeah, can you imagine? I mean, it's still now, can you imagine if Klefbom was able to stay healthy, like for this team, the other things that they would have been able to do from a money standpoint and not having to trade for guys? I mean, could you imagine? Can you imagine the Oilers with Klefbom at a healthy contract number and a trade for Ekholm, that left side of their defense? Oof. I mean, you probably wouldn't be able to keep all three of them, but like,
no, probably not.
Yeah.
Mind you, if Klefbom would have been healthy, Nurse probably wouldn't have put up the numbers that he did, and it would have kept that contract number down. And maybe in a fantasy world, you could have had both those guys. Golden Knights and Kings tonight, boys. Who are Oilers fans cheering for in this game? If the Golden Knights win, the Oilers have a nice little 3-point cushion on the Kings, likely home ice in the first round of the playoffs. If the Kings win, they're 1 point back of the Oilers, but the Oilers are still just 1 point back of Vegas to win the conference, have home ice throughout the West, and get a juicy wild card matchup.
Yeah, I think you're cheering for LA to win that, and I know it makes it tighter. I mean, regardless of who wins, you want it to happen in regulation. That's your ideal, right? You just you don't want to see that extra loser point go out. I would lean towards LA because to me, if you can win the conference, your first round matchup, you're going to be much better situated. Probably going to be Seattle, and I would way rather play Seattle in the first round than playing LA in the first round.
I think if you win the conference, you're not going to be Seattle. You're going to get Winnipeg, Calgary, or Nashville, right? Because the number one seed will get the 8th. Right. So, and
I guess, sorry, I was just looking across. For whatever reason, I thought Colorado had more points. Yeah. No. Yeah. So, yeah. But I think your first round positioning is way better if you can win the conference, and plus you win the conference. So, I would lean towards LA if I had to pick between the two, because home ice is important, and I think it is really important. But I'd take that conference positioning over top of home ice if I had to pick between the two. I would hope LA wins.
Gager.
Well, look, neither of these teams want to play the Oilers in the first round, right? So
you can't. There's no way.
The Kings, basically, it'd be very tough for them to do it. They just are looking for home ice. The Knights are looking to not play the Oilers in the first round. So
you either, if you're the Golden Knights, you play the Oilers or you play the Jets or Flames or Preds. That's a huge difference.
At least these two teams have something really, really big to play for tonight, right? There's home ice and not playing the Oilers. So, but from an Oilers standpoint, Dusty, I want them to play the Kings in the first round. I don't like
that'll get you into the postseason immediately. That's for sure.
I don't like the Oilers playing a team that they're supposed to beat in the first round. It's that mindset. I hate it. I want them. You see how they play against the teams that they know if they don't bring their best game, they're going to get embarrassed. They raise their emotional level, their structure, the way that they play is completely different against the good teams. So, and they beat them. So why wouldn't you want to play the Kings in the first round? They've gone into LA. They've put the seed of doubt into their minds as it is that they're having issues scoring. Man, they're hard to handle. They're disciplined. You have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. It's a scary team to play against. And what I noticed in the last game against the Kings is with Stuart Skinner, guys were he's already getting in the heads of guys about shooting the puck. The Kings are a shot, what do they call that? Volume shooting team. And there's guys on the team that don't think they can score. Adrian Kempe is trying to, he just gets in there and rips it. On that breakaway, he was kind of, okay, where do I put this and put it wide? He's already in the minds of Kings that they have to do something special to score on this kid. It lines up perfectly for them.
Well, it doesn't matter how it ends up. They're going to be good either way. But, interesting theory on the Kings there as well. All right, well, huge game tonight between the Kings and the Golden Knights. And just quickly for our presenting sponsors over at CoolBet, let me give you the lines on this one. The Golden Knights, a minus 124 favorite at home. Kings paying plus 106 as an underdog. The total right now is set at 6. I did look into this earlier today because I was thinking of making a play on it. Their other 3 games this year all totaled 6 goals, so it might not be as low scoring as I would have initially thought. So you can grab those odds over at coolbet.com. It's a busy night in the National Hockey League, a bunch of games to hop on, and watch the CoolBet socials a little bit later on. I've got a little lock shop play of the day that'll pop up there. It's a 2-gamer in the NHL tonight that you can make plus 133 on. Okay, one more place I wanted to go. Connor Bedard, obviously, he's been spectacular so far in the playoffs. Over 70 goals. That's a Pavel Brendel type numbers in the Western Hockey League. Yeah, absolutely phenomenal year. I saw somebody today ask this on Twitter, and a lot of it would depend on landing spot, but Cass, what would you say are fair expectations from a goal scoring perspective for a guy who just has a phenomenal shot stepping into the hockey and in National Hockey League? Like, is it crazy for me to say, oh, Bedard's going to score 30 as a rookie, no problem?
Nope. Well, it's not crazy, but I don't think he's going to do it.
Okay.
We've talked about this before, like where there's some, I think moving into playing against NHL goaltenders, will his shot continue to improve, or has it capped out? So is it realistic to say, well, of course he could score 30, but I think him doing that is also going to depend on who ultimately wins the lottery. Who is he going to play with? How is their power play? If he does it. So there's a whole lot of unknowns to me heading into this. It's not absurd to say he's going to score 30. He quite possibly could do it. If I had to put a line on it, I would take the under. If it was a 30, I would take the under. Definitely.
Gager, what do you think?
Oh, no chance. I think I talked about this back in episode in the teens. I think James Neal had a great article in ESPN magazine when he broke into the league, and we can all say James Neal was a sniper back in the day, and he remembers shooting on, and I think it was Ed Belfour, and Medano came down and shot. I think it was I think this is how it went. Medano came and Belfour had to do something special to stop it, and then Neal tried, and Belfour didn't even move, or I don't know who the goalie was at the time, and he realized that these goalies are a different breed. They can pick things up. There's certain things that they can notice when a guy's about to shoot the puck that he's going to have to adjust his game. Do I think he's going to score a ton of goals? For sure. But there's going to be a massive learning curve where he's going to be playing against a different kind of goaltender that's able to read what he's going to do, and he's going to have to do something perfect to score goals. So I can see maybe in the teens, but first year that's going to be very difficult for him, especially with the players like Cass mentioned that he's going to be playing with.
All right, it'd be interesting to see where that number lands next year preseason over at CoolBet. It'll be very fascinating.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that'll be good. Yeah,
I'll bet the over because
yeah, of course you can bet the over. Nobody wants to bet the under. A bunch of losers. Let's wrap with a question from Doug on the Twitter stream. Hey guys, the real question here: if you were a team in the Alzheimer's tournament, would you draft Kassian or Gager? And Doug, thank you very much for this question. I'm actually playing with the guys that you played with last year, Gager, that CIBC team. Ooh. I'm on that team this year, and I think we're drafting, like right now, we're in that 7-8 range which is a little bit higher than where they were last year. So I'm not too sure what the radar is going to look like for you guys and where you're being mocked in the Alzheimer's draft this year. But Cass, make a case for yourself here, buddy.
I mean, as of right now, they haven't asked me to play in it, so I don't even know if I'm going to be draft eligible. So
How have
pretty
you not
tough
been
for me to make
asked?
a case.
What the hell?
Maybe I got bad reviews for my team.
I always call you local Lindros. That's what I always think I do. You're a local Eric Lindros out there. Come on now.
Yeah, no, so as of right now, I'm not draft eligible. I'm not draft eligible, but I'll give you one good game. That's my thing, is I'll give you one good game. We'll win one game. We will at least win one game. And I will do everything I can. Probably the first one, because after that I get tired. But
especially because you're playing with a chip on your shoulder now, right?
Yeah.
Gager, what about you? Because you usually play like defense in these things, don't you?
In this one, yeah, I got booted to the bench, and so yeah, it's more about I'm good in the room, I guess, Dusty.
Big room guy.
That's the best.
Yeah.
I'm a huge room guy in this. As long as there's a cooler with ice in there, with some beverages, I'll tell some stories about how great I used to be.
I'm coming in hot this year because it's my birthday weekend. So I'll have a green light one of the two nights. And
so, you're going to be, everyone's usually just god awful because the draft night gets away from everyone. And all these guys get away for the first time in months and think they're 17 years old again. And after, they should just go home after the banquet. Just go home. Don't go downtown. Don't start going to other places and think you can do this all night, because that can't happen. Just get ready for the game the next day. Then
I'm going to fundraise, but I don't even know if I'm going to play. If I have too much fun Friday night, man, I'd just be like, sorry, boys, I'm out. Don't worry, but we got enough guys. More ice time for everybody else. So, yeah, no. That should be fun. I look forward to that. And, Doug, Jet Label Doug. They've got a team in there as well that usually does pretty well from a fundraising perspective. All right, boys. Well, hey, happy Easter weekend. Enjoy your time. If you're kicking around on Monday, maybe we'll do a Tuesday episode or something. I'm going to do a Tuesday episode. I know I'm working Monday. Do you guys have to work Monday? Do you get Mondays off? Is it a regular day for all of us? If it is, we might as well just do an episode.
No. So you know that.
Yeah, that's right. All right, boys. Well, enjoy the time with your family this weekend, and we'll talk to you on Monday. See you later, guys.
All right, boys.